It's my great privilege today to interview Massimo. Hopefully I won't get us into too much trouble. So for those of you that don't know, this is Massimo Mazone. He's an entrepreneur in Central America. He has businesses throughout the region. His biggest is a pharmaceutical chain. And recently he's forayed into the governance as a service industry. So let's give a round of applause for Massimo.
Thank you.
So first I'd like to ask you, what inspired you to create Mazone?
Well, I have been a libertarian all my life, and I was lucky enough when this movement started again, because this is, as Joe said at the beginning of the conference, this is as old as human civilization. So it started again when Paul Romer came after the coup, exactly what George just said. And so there was this law that then was repealed, and then there was another law. And I was very lucky. Probably if I was a believer, I would have think that it was a message of God, because in a country that is $25 billion GDP, which means it's just one out of 4,000 of the GDP of the world, developed what I think is the best opportunity for us to create a path for liberty.
And was there a particular vision or model you wanted to implement in Mazone?
Well, we can talk about the target, the type of people that we want to attract, and the model. Regarding the first, we speak a lot about the network state. I have had this conversation with few of you in these days. The network state, it's fantastic, a great idea, but it's what? For a couple of million people in the world, and probably maybe 50,000 will move. We have the example of the Free Staters in New Hampshire. After 20 years, they managed to move 7,000 people, and it's in the US. So this is, I completely respect it and I share it, but it's a kind of elitist movement. It's for people that already now have the possibility of choosing among 30 or 40 jurisdictions. There is another huge constituencies here. It's the 2 billion of people that they have in the next 30 years will move from the countryside in Africa, India, Indonesia, in some pieces of Latin America, to move to the cities. And the offer, the supply for these people, it's a monopolistic state that really don't care and see potential clients as targets to be stolen, to be stolen from. So our clients, I mean, everybody can come, even you came, that are not really a blue-collar worker in Honduras, but our clients are the blue-collar workers in Honduras. We open in Choloma, the third city in Honduras, 300,000 people. It's the industrial heart of Honduras, and it's a very thriving city. People come from all around Honduras to find a job. They find a job there, or they used to find until 2 years ago. Now even that traditional industry is in crisis. But they didn't find housing, they didn't find a decent environment to grow. If you go to Choloma, housing is awful, school people, I mean, the teachers don't show up, most roads are not paved. The sewage, you see kids playing with open air sewage, it's really a hellhole. And so we wanted to give a better place to live and grow a family for these guys, and also for the employers, which are not a sophisticated employer like biohacking or financial service. It's basic in industry, in textile, automotive harnessing, but an industry that employ tens of thousands of people. So we are not really a network state. We can be a network, part of a network state. For example, we have a couple of houses. This is a good example with cabin. You saw cabin. I like a lot cabin, but for some reason, in 4 or 5 months, nobody of cabin decided to come. Actually, I think one guy is coming now for a few months. Because yes, it's nice to do a network state, but you guys also want the Starbucks ready, and so it's another segment. In terms of institution, the big difference with these network states, and especially Prospera, is that Prospera is a subdivision. They monetize the increase of value of land, selling the land. I do not believe in that. Our models are based on the theory of Spencer Kitt, and I invite you to look in Wikipedia who he was. And basically, it's what we call an entrepreneurial community, for short, an entrecom. It's like a mall. There is a single owner that only rent. So we don't sell. We only rent, and for retail, for people, we do short-term rent, 3 months, renewable, of course, so we can keep a community with people we respect, and they respect the other people.
What are the biggest advantage of this model, in your opinion?
Well, there are 4 big advantages of an entrecom against a subdivision. The first is resolution of conflicts. If we have a tenant that is not a criminal, it doesn't break rules, but it's just an asshole, maybe he screams to the kids at 5 o'clock because the kids are playing football outside. In a subdivision, it's impossible to kick him out. We just do not renew the lease, so it's very easy to fix the problem. Of course, if there is something very serious, we take the person and we give the person to the Honduran police, because the criminal law, as you know, it's not part of our responsibility. But there was an example. For example, there was a guy that was about to hit a lady a few months ago. He was drunk in the community, and I mean, in theory, we should have given this guy to the attorney of Choloma, and probably he would have gone through a process. And we discussed with the wife what should be the right punishment, and she said, just tell him that he cannot go home for 1 month. So we impeded the entrance to him for 1 month. The tenant was the wife, it was not him. And he learned the lesson. Then he behaved when he was back. So this is a very easy way to fix conflicts without, scaling up. Another important reason is the opportunity of redevelop real estate. The value of land change, and the best use of land change with technology. So, for example, the entrance of the community now is dedicated to low-cost housing, 60 square meter houses that we rent at $60, $120 per month. And probably in the future, this is the most valuable part of the community, because it's at the center. So if you sell, it's very difficult if you don't have eminent domain. And as libertarian, frankly, eminent domain, it's evil. What we can do is it's just to build other houses for blue-collar worker, maybe 500 meters away. And we can go to our client to say, look, I'm sorry, but we have to build a high-rise building for McKinsey or so. So you have the same house, new, just 500 meters, and we can throw in 2 months for free. And any reasonable people understand this and move. And if the guy doesn't want to move, we just wait until the end of the lease and we kick him out. These are some of the biggest one. Another very important is especially for economists, is the public services. No? The public service, which in many cases are not public in economic terms, because they are rivalrous and excludable, like education or health, there is really not a way to understand from an epistemological point how much you should spend on this, because there is no price mechanism. If I build a park, if I ask people, do you want a park? 99% will say yes. How much is worth the park? They don't know. They just invent, and they give you a number that is not falsifiable in any way. In this case, I will create a park only if the increased rent that I can get from existing or new clients will be higher than the cost of building the park. Of course, I still do not have an exact value, right, that the client give to the park. But it's the job of the entrepreneur to guess, to estimate the value. And so it's a way of having a market mechanism to define the quantity of public goods. And also, of course, the public goods are then implemented by a private, so there is not the usual looting and waste and patronage that is typical of Western representative democracy.
Oh, that's very interesting. How's it going so far?
It's going well. We have you. I mean, that's a pretty good endorsement. So we were going very well when the new government arrived. When you talk about Ciudad Morazán or any other Zede, but Ciudad Morazán in particular, there are two different entities. One is a political entity. As George said, it's a subdivision of Honduras with a technical secretary, and this entity raised taxes and provide public services. And we have the only tax we have, it's a 5% on income, a flat for any type of income. And with this, you have to pay for the police, the school, and other things that are public, considered public goods, and in the law we have to provide. So at the time I moved one of my most profitable company inside the Zede. So with the 5%, the political entity was already getting $70,000 per month of taxes. And the public service costed between, at that time, $35,000 and $40,000. So the Zede, as a political entity, had a surplus of $30,000 per month, money that was supposed to give him back to the taxpayer at the end of the year, because it's a non-profit entity, right? So there is no reason to keep the money there. So the actual taxation was probably something like 3%. And then there is a for-profit private entity. In our case, it's called Community Artists, as an homage to a great guy that is called Spencer McCallum, who was my dear and close friend. And this is the owner of all the land and all the building, and makes money on rent. And this is the private entity where I am supposed to make money. At that time, we invested, accumulated $15 million, maybe $12 million at the time, and we were having revenues of $20,000, and cost, given that most costs are inside the political entity, the costs were very little. I had 2-3 employees, plus I'm a cheap bastard, so I was paying very little. So we were making probably $10,000 or $12,000, which do not justify. It was a personal loan without interest to the company. So from an accounting point of view, the company was making money. Of course, the cost of capital was higher than what we were getting, but you have to consider that the $12 million, most were assets that are not monetizable yet. Is the initial land, a couple of millions, is the line that brings electricity from the monopolistic provider in Honduras to our place, water wheel, recycling plant, the main road, the wall that has to be around. So probably there were $3 million monetizable, and the rest were basic infrastructure that would be monetized in the future with other building. But in October 21, I was about to close 2 contracts, one for a tower. I would have built a tower for 300 young guys for a call center, and the other one was a pharmaceutical company, not linked to me, that wanted to rent 50,000 square meter, and in that case, they were going to build the building, which is not really our model, but because a pharmaceutical plant is a very specific asset. I mean, if I build that building and then the client would go away, it would have been very difficult for me to find another client, because it's an investment that there is a lot of money that it's spent because it's going to be a pharmaceutical plant. It's not just a warehouse like we have that can be used by a number of different industries. So that would have brought us to $100,000 per year with little additional cost, $100,000 per month for community artists, for the for-profit company, with very additional investment. And it was going to work. We already demonstrated we were not a startup. We were a company making money. Both the political entity and the private company was making money. This is a model that works. I don't know how much scalable is. I receive a lot of flack from people that don't like the Entrecom model, saying that it's doable only with a very little number of people, maybe 20,000 people, and then you need the spontaneous order of the market. I don't know. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I have a company with 7,000 employees, and I never had problem of coordination inside my company. I think I can, in my business, I can grow 10 times without having problem, if you choose the right people to manage it. And my personal opinion is that an Entrecom can work even with cities of 2 or 3 or 10 million people. I am right or not, we'll never know if we don't try.
Is there anything you'd have done differently in hindsight?
No, exactly the same. The only thing that is blocking now is this political situation, but there is absolutely nothing I can do for that. So I think the Alcoholic Anonymous, the third principle: do not worry about things that you cannot do anything about. So I'm just waiting. It's kind of frustrating. I'm 59. I probably have, 20, 25 years of my life to live, and I'm wasting 4 stupid years waiting, which is 20% of my available time. But there is really nothing I can do. So let's hope that in 18 months we'll be able to start again. And the business plan that you can find if you go in our site, www.morasan.city, it's for a city of 15,000 people, and there are not only residential units, but 100,000 square meters of industrial space, which make it one of the 3 biggest industrial parks in Honduras. Supermarket, shop, church, and all the civic infrastructure of a city. The budget was $150 million of investment that I had earmarked for the project. The money is ready. We don't have to raise anything, so it's only a question of if they allow us to do it or not. By the way, some economics on real estate, to put it in context. Worldwide real estate divided by the number of people on Earth, it's $35,000, and we are spending $10,000 per person. First of all, because of people not like you, so they don't have a requirement very expensive, right? Some very basic construction. But most importantly, because you don't have to pay for regulations, and also there is not the value of proximity. We built in agricultural land that is in the outskirts of Choloma, and we bought at about $5,000 per hectare, which is $2,000 per acre, and so the land is very cheap.
What are you most proud of in the city?
You! No, and I'm not joking, I'm not joking, because this guy, like most of you, could be everywhere, could be here in Prospera looking at the beautiful sea, could be in New York, and he chose to come to live in our community, which is a community of blue-collar workers. It's you. Most of you, I mean, some of you live in third world countries and might know, but it's not like the US. I mean, it's a place very simple, very noisy, with a lot of relatively poor people. Poor people for your standards, but it would be middle and lower class in Honduras. Lots of kids that goes out everywhere and scream and messy, but very vibrant. So it's not really built as a place like for people like you, but there is this guy that's a person like you, and Joyce also, my dear friend and friend of Spencer McCallum too, that decided to come to live in Morazan. So this fact that the community can attract all type of people, I am very proud of it.
Thank you, everyone. Give it up for Massimo.
We have time for questions.
You have anyone in the audience?
There is one from Carl over there.
Hi, I'm Carl Peterson from the Charter Cities Institute. So Massimo, as you kind of hinted at, you're a pretty doctrinaire libertarian. If I'm being quite frank, your online presence can sometimes be sort of combative. But something that's sort of unknown about you is that you're a giant softie and you have a heart of gold. So I think there's a story about a lady named Rosa who was selling some stuff outside of Morazan, and I'd like to know how you kind of dealt with that issue. And I'd also like to know more broadly how kind of we're doing in Morazan and with special jurisdictions broadly, how that can help the people who need it the most.
Right. Well, the Rosa episode, just one of this episode. There are others that I would be happy to recount to you. But at the beginning, when we were building the first houses, there was this lady that lived in a wooden shack just next to our property. And she started to come during the day to sell some food and soda to the workers. And the business was going well, and so one day he showed up with a mule and a lot of wood and started to create, to build a shack in my property. And I asked Doña Rosa, what's up? And she said, well, it's too heavy to bring the stuff from my place to here, so I'm going to put a stall here. Well, this is private property, Doña Rosa, you cannot do that. You have to reach an agreement with me. And so we signed a contract for, I think, $10 per month for 50 square meters. But in the contract it was written that she must have maintained the place clean. And at the beginning she wasn't really caring about that, but when I threatened, Doña Rosa, you don't have to do like that. So she put a rubbish collection system, and it worked very well. When it finished, Rosa rented one of the houses and became the pulpera, the mom and pop shop of the community, the one that sells convenience store stuff. And it was the first time in her life, Rosa probably is 40 years old, that she was living in a city made of concrete, in a place made of concrete, not a wooden shack without floor. I mean, floor there is grass and dirt. In our case, she had running water, she had electricity. It was the first time. And she became an entrepreneur. And yes, this is something to be very proud of. But there are many examples like that. These are poor, desperate people, and that The possibility of growing are denied by a state that it's a particularly evil state in Honduras, and when you free them of this constraint, the natural animal spirit of the man of creating companies and providing to the fellow member of society immediately flourish.
All right, let's hear it for Alex.